Hi everybody, Brian here with Forrest Outdoors. Coming to you today after a big win on Lake of the Ozarks, final tournament of the year, 2-day event. Really excited to get a big win with 32 pounds on the lake. It's October, it's the weekend after the Big Bass Bash, and it was some tough fishing. And you saw that from the weights over the weekend. With the Big Bass Bash the previous weekend, there's over 2,000 boats on the water, which puts both a lot of pressure on the fish as well as the fish that were caught. Puts a lot of pressure on them. That on top of a cold front that came in Thursday night really changed the bite and made it difficult. Really want to talk to you today about two things. One is really the bait and the lures that I used to win this tournament. And then the next segment, I'll talk about the pattern in which I followed to win this weekend. So first is the lure of choice. Main lure of choice this weekend was a jig, and this is a common pattern, common lure on Lake of the Ozarks. But what this isn't the exact one I was using, but I'm working with jack baits on a new prototype. It is a unique type of head that's really beneficial for skipping, wood, cover, structure. It's not necessarily a finesse, it's not a football, it's kind of a mix between the two. But what this is a close replica of it, and what it is essentially is a skirtless jig. I don't know what else to call it other than that. It's a standard, structure jig with a unique type of head to it, but it doesn't have a skirt on it. Now what I do, this is a 1/2 ounce that I was using this weekend. I was using a black style head, black color head, and I was pairing it with a Missile Baits D-Bomb, and this is a vampire red black color. And all I would do is simply rig this on like a standard Texas rig or a jig trailer, excuse me, and I thread it on like so, make sure it's straight, make sure it's aligned, and that's really it. Nothing special. It's kind of a different setup, and I would throw this into some pretty unique areas. I was using this on 17-pound fluorocarbon, and was really skipping and pitching this jig into some really tough spots. Once it hit the water, I've learned that I need to dead stick this, and when I say dead stick, I mean do not move the bait for anywhere between 5 to 10 seconds. And this was key, as once the jig moved on the initial fall, I think bass kind of walked away from it and didn't really want to have anything to do with it. However, if it stood there and didn't move, that water, given the area that I was fishing, would really make that plastic move around. And every time I would have a fish bite, it would be taking my line the other way. So that means I was doing something right, and they were really getting a hold of it and running with it. So that gave me a good sign as to I was on a pretty good pattern. If I was not throwing a darker color early on in the morning, I was going with a lighter brown or green style jig head, same thing, 1/2 ounce. This is a Big Bite Baits tube craw, and this is a green pumpkin with a red fleck. Once again, a really different, unique style bait. You wouldn't really think about putting this on a jig as a trailer, but it worked really well for this weekend, especially with that tube. What I liked about it was having the ability for scent, attractant, anything you want to call it, that you put all around this bait as well as inside. So what I thought would happen, as I picture this in my mind, we'll go ahead and put this on real quick, but you go ahead and just thread it on like a standard jig trailer. Just make sure everything's straight, everything's aligned. And I'm doing this real quick. But what this allowed to do is, one, you can cast this into some pretty tight spots, and it's going to skip, depending on how good your skipping is, but you're going to skip it a good ways if you can. But what this allowed to do is, like I said, once that bait sits on the initial fall, the way these tubes are designed, they contain air bubbles on the inside and on the outside with these rib sides. And what it allows it to do is, as it's sitting there and it's slowly moving around a little bit with that plastic, it releases air bubbles. And the same thing happens with that Missile D-Bomb on these ribbed outsides. It allows those air bubbles to come up, which is a lot of times what crawdads do, feed on the bottom, especially feed on that algae. So not moving that bait on the initial fall and having some of those air bubbles and having this plastic move around was really key on a lot of my bites. And I say key on a lot of my bites is when I was talking to different anglers, we didn't catch a whole lot of small fish. When I say small, I mean dinks or anything under 15 inches. We had a good, 8-10 bites a day, and they were all quality fish, between 2 and 5 pounders. Sunday was actually our best day, a shorter day, but once we really got dialed into the pattern, we were able to catch some quality fish. I believe I brought in a 3.5, a 3.3, and I think another 3-pounder to the scale on Sunday. So good jig pattern for Lake of the Ozarks. It's something different. It's something to try. The areas that we were fishing had a little clearer water, and I really highly recommend going with something a little red flag. In that dirtier water, and in certain areas, I'd go with a dark color, whether it be red and black or black and blue is the main staple down at Lake of the Ozarks. But really what I'm more excited about is this new Jack Baits jig that we're prototyping. It produces, it has results. We're getting really close to a final design, and it's going to be one heck of a jig. So thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, any ideas on some other videos, look up my Facebook page, go to my website at forrestoutdoors.com, or send me an email at forrestoutdoors@gmail.com. Thank you very much, and we'll see you out next time on the water.